expert or an authority who you just know you have a book inside of you, or you have published a book and it's just sitting there collecting dust, maybe in big boxes in your garage. You had this big plan for it, but it never really worked out. I know you are going to love today's podcast because I brought somebody on who has optimized her genius by turning information, knowledge, and expertise into books that book you business. Hi, it's Melanie Benson here. I'm America's leading small business optimizer. And as you know, if you've been following along, this podcast series is all about learning behind the scenes, what it really takes to optimize your business. How do you do the little things that have the hugest impact that will literally catapult you into higher profits and results? And today, I have somebody who I have been hearing a lot about. She's kind of been the in the background there in the scene, kind of like her name popping up everywhere in lights. She's been doing one of my strategies where I believe in like brand flooding the market. All of a sudden you hear her name everywhere. And our guest is Kristen Eckstein of ultimatebookcoach.com. Now, Kristen is a highly sought after publishing authority, two-time best-selling author, and award-winning international speaker who has started over 50, oh my God, 50 publishing companies and published over 160 books and ebooks, including the author's Quick Guide series. And let me just tell you that when I was getting online today, we're using Skype for this interview, and I saw on Kristen's status that she wrote a book a week between fall and now. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, it started the last week of August, all
Okay.
the way through the end of last year.
You have way more focus and energy and like I could ever muster up. I thought I was doing good to get a blog post a week out. You're like writing books every week. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, my blog suffered a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
All right. Well, we'll talk about delegating.
Yeah.
So, I love when I get to bring people on that I don't know as well, because we get to talk about all kinds of cool stuff and really get to know Kristen and what makes your business tick, what makes you want to do what you do. And I think anybody who is in business in any level, when you learn from somebody who's either had like a fast-paced growth or they've had that slow, momentous growth, it can give you some inspiration on what to do. So I'd love to start with, what got you into publishing and how did you get where you are right now?
Well, over 10 years ago, my husband and I were approached by someone who wanted to start a vanity publishing company, which is a self-publishing services company. Back when it was relatively new, Trafford Publishing was the leading authority in vanity back then. And we said, sure, why not? We don't have jobs. We're fresh out of college. Let's go for it. So we learned literally from the ground up everything about publishing, and I became the marketing director for the company, and he became the chief designer for the company. He designed all the books. I got all the clients, and 9 months into it, we ended up leaving that company and splitting off and creating our own publishing company, mostly because for 3 of those 9 months we were with the company, we were not paid.
Oh yeah, that's problematic.
Just a little.
Mm-hmm.
And I swore from then on I would never work more than a week without getting paid. Ever. And I've thankfully only had 2 clients in the past 10 years not pay me. So that is a good track record to have, and I'd like to keep that one up. But that's just how we got started in publishing. I've been writing books since I was 4. I've been reading them since I was, old enough to talk, pretty much. I don't even remember when I actually learned to read. My mom says I was born reading, so I'm not positive on that. I know I was under the piano reading encyclopedias when I was about 7 years old.
Wow. I was a big reader when I was little too. I think you either have that pull towards you or you hate books, but I loved them. And do you have one of those construction paper books where you wrote like really big letters and then tied it with ribbon on the side?
Actually, funny you should mention that. Let me lean down here really quick. My mom made me this book that nobody has ever seen this. Okay? I don't show this to people because it's got my nickname up here.
So we don't want to know that it's Missy's ABC book.
Yeah.
Okay.
She made this for me when I was born.
Aww.
I know I was really young, and it literally taught the alphabet in a fun way, where this opened up and there was actually an apple seed in here. Most of the pieces are still intact. These little balloons come off. They're Velcro. And
That's
I
so
remember
cute.
learning my alphabet with this. I remember learning how to tie bows with this, how to tie my shoes, which was near the end here. I think S was a shoelace. That's how I learned to tie my shoes right there.
Mm,
So you can say
precious.
that learn how to talk on the phone. You could say that my whole life revolved around books, and I do know the watermelon seed is still there.
That's great. Oh,
I've
I
had
love
this for
it.
35 years.
Wow. Well, so it's been kind of in your genes then, it sounds like,
I
and you
think so.
turned it into a business because it's the thing that you were most passionate about?
Yeah, I've been passionate about it. My favorite line from the movie The Princess Bride is, "In my day, television was called books,"
Mm.
because I grew up without a TV, which is like,
I know
you
most
wanted to
people are
survive.
fascinated by that, yeah.
Yeah, I have Netflix now. I still don't have TV. So I didn't even know the Oscars were happening until this morning when I checked Facebook. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. Everybody's obsessed with something. Big deal. I'm not that crazy about that kind of stuff. I would much rather curl up on my couch over here and open a book than I do love movies. I love watching Netflix, but beyond that, that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I just got Apple TV, so now I can stream Netflix and iTunes and all other kinds of wonderful toys onto my TV. And have you ever heard the saying that it's not the size of your TV that counts, it's the size of your library?
Yes, I have, and
Yeah,
I do believe that to be true.
yeah.
All of the entrepreneur friends I have, their libraries are much bigger than their TVs, and they all laugh at me because they usually have, the nice widescreen TVs. My husband and I, up until Christmas of this past year, still had one of those big box TVs where the purple corner was was happening
Nice.
because the tubes or something was going bad, and it's been that way for years. So we actually finally got a widescreen high def TV and Blu-ray player like at Christmas, literally 3 months ago. So that totally shows where my priorities lie. Like I can drop a few $100s on books, no problem.
Easy,
But
yeah.
the only reason we got the TV was partially Christmas gifts came in, and I also purchased two iPads at Christmas, one for me for my business and one as an affiliate prize for a contest I was running. And each iPad came back with a $100 gift card to Target. So we literally got our TV for like $70.
That's awesome.
I'm like, that's the only reason we even got it. It was because it was so cheap.
All
But
right,
I
so we
love
know you're
books.
not big on TV.
No,
We
and
know
I
you're
don't
a big reader. You started when you were a baby. Apparently,
yeah,
coming out of
pretty
the womb, you
much.
started reading the charts on the doctor's wall.
Probably.
So, so let's go a little bit deeper into why publishing and, how I always look at it like there's usually a challenge or a need that someone out there has that causes you to get successful. So, how would you say you best help people in your way of doing books?
Well, my biggest challenge or the big challenge I saw in the industry early on was that all of these big name companies were ripping authors off.
Mm,
And they were concerned about the authors taking money or taking money from the authors and not creating a marketable product. Like they just stroked the author's ego and said, "Woohoo, you're published," and basically published crap. And a little bit of history here, iUniverse and Trafford were the two big guys when I got started.
yeah.
iUniverse was started with Barnes& and Noble. Barnes& and Noble's idea was to create a self-publishing arm to be able to funnel new authors into the bookstores because they thought this would be great, right? Well, iUniverse started to publish anybody who could give them money, which was not necessarily good. They were unedited, they were poorly designed books, and Barnes& and Noble literally cut the ties with iUniverse and said no more and banned them. So they
Mm,
are actually all the big vanity publishers are red flagged in Barnes& and Noble system. So if your book says it's published by one of these companies, they will look it up and say, "I'm sorry, but you're red flagged. We can't have you here." And that bothered me because despite what people say about bookstores dying, indie bookstores are on the rise, and stores like Half Price Books that carry new and used are on the rise. They're opening new stores like crazy right now. So retail is not dead. However, big box stores are dying, which is not a bad thing. The thing that authors don't necessarily understand is if you meet Barnes& and Noble's requirements, which are the strictest in the industry, you meet the requirements for anything.
hmm.
Like any marketing door will be open to you, including the New York Times. Like we actually have an author who made it to number 26 on the New York Times bestseller list a few months ago. And that was huge because that takes, 10 to 15,000 books sold in 1 week. is what it takes. And they have to be sold through distribution channels, which means retail stores like Barnes and Noble, airport stores, things like that. And so I wanted to find a way to give authors this door without having to go with the big traditional publisher and give up all their rights, I actually have an author who went with the big publisher after indie publishing because she thought it was a good deal. She had to wait 3 years for her book to come out, and then after that she had to wait another year to write anything else because they owned her. They owned everything that she did for 4 years. So
So,
she was literally stalled in her writing.
so you're actually making the publishing process more accessible and more towards the author than the publishing companies.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
And what I do
you're
is actually
making it
start.
easy to publish, basically.
I am. I'm making it very easy. I mean, we operate like a self-publishing services company where
Mm-hmm.
we do all the work,
Mm-hmm.
but unlike a self-publishing services company, our name doesn't go in the book. Nobody knows that we did any of these books unless we tell you that we did these books, because we want the author to get all the credit. So the author is the face, the author is owns the company, and we publish it in such a way that it doesn't look like the author owns the company. It looks like a small, independent, traditional publishing house that's been around for a while, or well, there's different ways we can use ISBNs to show that it's been around longer than it has.
Hmm.
And it's just a little bit of a trick to be able to open that bookstore door that will open up every other door, including like mainstream media and other publicity options people don't even realize exist.
So let me make sure I'm hearing you right. Are you also saying that you help these authors who may not normally get into Barnes and Noble be able to get placement in Barnes and Noble? I think they're like the only main bookstore left. I don't think
They
there's really any other ones out there.
Yeah, Books A Million has a few stores, but Barnes and Noble is pretty much the only game in town anymore, and they're trying to stay alive. And we'll see what happens in the marketplace. It keeps jumping back and forth. Are they going to
Yeah.
die? Or are they going to stay alive? But the fact of the matter is, they set the parameters for the industry.
Okay.
Therefore, every independent bookstore follows suit with those parameters. Unless you happen to know the bookstore owner, then you can get
Okay,
it.
so you're an expert or an author or somebody who's you've got a story to tell and you want to get your book out there. And you don't really know where to start. Let's say they were going to turn to you. Let's give somebody an idea of what they need to know to be able to be successful with this kind of adventure in publishing that like you said earlier, the game has changed so much. There's digital, there's self-publishing, there's traditional publishers, there's now what you're telling us about. Like, give us a little bit of some idea of what we're in store for here.
Well, they need to know what their goals are
Okay.
first and foremost. Like, what do you want from a book? Do you want to just tell your story and cross something off your bucket list? And that's a very good reason to write and publish a book. Or do you want to get credibility and speaking engagements on main stages? Do you want to take that to the next level and get not only speaking engagements but also a bigger platform, which you have to already have a platform to be able to do that aspect of it. But those are different levels. So the vanity publishing sphere of CreateSpace, Lulu.com, those kinds of companies will cater to the bucket list people. The people who say, you know what, I got a memoir, I just want to write my story, I want to write a book of poetry, I just want to get this fiction story out of my head. Boom, check, done, move on with life. Then you have the credibility people who are like, I really want credibility, I want that speaking gig, I want to charge more for my coaching clients and for my services, and I want to create additional products, and I basically want to create my own empire, my own brand. And I don't want to give away all my rights to a traditional publisher. I want to keep those rights because I want to have the authority to create workbooks and manuals and things from my main book
Mm-hmm.
later. That would be where I come in. And then you have the ones who want to take it up a notch and get major publicity, which only happens after you already have a platform built. So you can't just jump from a nobody to a traditional publisher. That just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. They're not accepting people. The back door is to indie publish, which is in the middle, and then build your platform, build your expertise, and then sell your book to a traditional publisher. I have 3 clients who did just that, and the fourth one was the one who was unhappy with her contract because they owned her for 4 years.
Yeah.
So you still have to be aware of contracts because traditional publishers take a $30,000 to $70,000 gamble on every author that they publish. So if you think about that, they're forking out all this money for the production, the editing, the print run, teeny tiny little bit of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Even my author with the huge platform had to do most of her own marketing. She got assigned an intern who didn't know anything about marketing.
Oh, that's
A college
fun.
student. Yeah. So unless you're already a celebrity or politician, you got to be prepared for that and be prepared to do that. Which, if you're going to do all your marketing anyway, why give away 94% of the profits of your book to someone else?
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't get that. Now, some people want that, and
When
that's
they don't understand the differences, I think.
a lot of them don't, and some of them really don't care.
Hmm.
I have some that are like, you know what, it's worth it because I want a better shot at the New York Times list.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as much work. It's just you don't have to do it all on your own.
Ah, good to know. So you said something earlier that I just want to take a step back and clarify because I'm familiar with these terms, but if you're not familiar with the term of building your platform, I think this is a real gray area for people who want to get a book out, who maybe have gotten a book out or have tried to approach publishers and it didn't work. Tell me a little bit more about what building a platform means and why it's so important to being able to succeed with getting a book out.
Building a platform means how many people do you have that you know for a fact will buy your book? How many people can you name?
Right.
Which includes your email list, your Facebook fan page, your groups, your networking events you're a part of, people you meet at trade shows, speaking engagements that you do to new audiences. All of those are pieces of your platform. But essentially, your platform is numbers. It's proof. If I create this product, then I know I'm going to have so many people come buy it. So like I can say, I pre-launched actually a product to only 200 people. And I've already sold about 25% of that audience into this new product because I knew that they would buy it. And it's not even ready yet. It's not launching until April. It's not something that is, I mean, the sales page is horrible. It's just, I can take those numbers and say, I know for a fact every book that I write, I'm going to sell at least 100 copies in the first week. I know that because I have this many people who buy every single thing that I create. That is your platform.
Smart. I love it. Yeah, and I learned, well, I'm blessed, I've been building my platform for a long time, so I have a pretty decent sized platform, but that was one of the things that I've really heard that makes a big difference. And when I'm working with my own clients who want to write a book, I'm like, just start building your Twitter, just start building your social media right now because you're going to need it.
Yeah, and so many of them are afraid, well, somebody's going to steal my great idea. Well, present yourself as the expert in a topic. It doesn't mean that you have to give away the farm.
Right,
Give
exactly.
away your whole idea or
Yeah.
your unique perspective on it. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have people lined up to buy your book, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to publish it. They're not going to buy it anyway.
I want to ask you one more question, and then I want to dig a little bit deeper even, but I just want to, I think sometimes different publishing houses and different people, they tend to do well by specializing in a niche.
Yeah.
Do you have a niche that you serve, or are you generic in the sense that you can work with any type of author?
I serve entrepreneurs who are speakers and coaches.
Oh, good. Okay.
That is my primary audience, and I have niched that down to the point that I even have a teddy bear that I can move this pillow here. The one behind this bear.
The other bear, not that bear, the other
the
bear.
Blue bear. The blue bear is actually my target audience. She's holding a
Okay.
microphone because she's a speaker.
Aw.
And she's holding a bear pad, which is the Build-A-Bear version of an iPad, because she's not afraid to use technology or buy stuff online. So I got extremely specific in who my target audience is, and I recommend that to every one of my clients. I actually had a fiction author approach me on Facebook, very well written. He lives in another country, so I was very surprised. He's great English. And he said, he's like my biggest new fan, and he's so excited to meet me, and he loves my videos, and he loves all this stuff. He's like, which book should I start with for marketing? So I sent him my author's quick guide to marketing your book. That's a pretty good overview. And he's like, okay, I bought it. Now what's the next best one? And he said, and I told him, because he said he was a fiction author, and I said, now I just want you to know, because he was asking about my other services, I said, I don't work with fiction authors unless they get down on their knees and beg.
And send me a picture.
And send me a picture of them down on their knees and begging. And the reason for that is because the industry has trained fiction authors to accept everything on a silver platter and not have to do any of the work.
Mhm.
They don't have to do the marketing. They don't have to build their platform. That is the way the industry used to be. It's not that way anymore. And so they expect everything totally done for them, and they can just sit back in the closet and be an introvert and write. And that's not the case anymore. It doesn't work that way anymore. Besides that, most fiction does not earn out its investment. And we are a very high quality service provider. We compete with Random House. Our quality is going to compete with the big traditional publishers. And if you're not willing to pay for that kind of quality, which most fiction authors aren't, then I can't work with you. So I can also guarantee pretty much that people coming back to me for business books, I can help them with how to coach them on how to use the book in their business as a tool. And I actually had a coaching call with someone recently who was looking at a $6,000 package, which is my all-inclusive package. And I gave her a plan to make up half of her investment before she even invested it
Ooh,
in her
that's
book, to
brilliant.
pre-sell and create all these different avenues to be able to get money for the book project so that she'd be able to afford it. And she was just blown away by that.
That's
She's like, oh
great.
my gosh, I thought you were so expensive. And I'm like, but that's what I do. I want my authors to make money back. And I do have authors that have sold. I have one that sold 6,000 copies in her first 8 months, which is huge. It's most self-published books. The average sold is 75 copies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, that's one of the
Copies.
things you have to know is that I know some people that's like it just give books out and it's like it's not that. You don't need to write the book, you need to market the book, you need to leverage the book.
You do.
So I love that plan. All right, Kristen. I have a feeling that things weren't always this rosy and this
Yeah.
peachy in terms of the way your business runs. What do you think was one of your biggest challenges along the way uh, as an entrepreneur and someone in such a I would almost call it like a not a volatile, but it's a really fast paced niche that you're in.
It's very hard to keep up. And I have clients all the time email me articles and videos about the industry, which helps.
Hmm.
And I hardly have time to go look at them all. I also have authors that are like, well, you edited my book, so did you read it? No, my editors edited your book. I don't have time. There's no
Right.
way I can create all these products and coach people and have time to read every book that
Exactly.
comes across my desk, besides the fact I don't want to. Some of them are subject matter I'm not interested in. If they're not going to do something to benefit my business and my clients, I'm not going to take spend my time on it. But the biggest thing that happened was actually personal. And I don't know about you, but as an entrepreneur, my personal life and my business life are like this.
Hmm.
They're totally meshed together. It's very hard to distinguish lines between the two. In fact, before my husband came to work for me full time, that was correct for me. Um, he
I was like, hmm.
he and I had he says, I like to say we work together. However, the truth is, I do what she tells me to
Hey,
do.
as long as he's okay with it.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Just got to flip it when you go home, right?
Yeah. No, well, and the fact is, I couldn't do what I do without him anyway. So, he knows how much I need him. So I'll be nice to him. But when something in my personal life rocks my world, it just threw me for a loop. And I mean, I used to talk about work, work, work all the time. And he actually asked me once, he's like, do you ever not talk about work? I'm like, but work is so fun. Work is my life. It's
Yeah.
what I love. When it's what you love, it doesn't feel like work so much. Now, there's days. There's always going to be days that feel like work. And there's days like today where my to-do list was so big I had to put it on a sticky note so that I could start crossing stuff off. Because I was like,
Sorry.
this was my meeting with myself this morning, was a sticky note.
Okay.
I got
I'm
to
glad we got to fit in here, by the way.
you were actually first.
Aw.
But I did get a bunch of stuff crossed off before you, which is awesome. Anyhow, my world was rocked a couple of years ago. My parents were happily married, I thought, for 35 years, and they suddenly divorced.
Hmm.
An entire history and past that I did not know, and my husband did not know, surfaced. In fact, nobody knew about this past, not even their families.
Wow.
There's just a lot of crap that happened, and I still am dealing with it. I mean, it's like a ripple effect. The main stone being thrown in the water, the big ripple is gone. However, the shock is gone, but those little ripples at the end of the pond are still pushing the bank.
Yeah.
So there's still stuff that even this weekend I was dealing with more stuff, and I was just told my husband, said, I don't know when this is going to end. I don't think it ever will. I
Aw.
think I'm always going to have reminders and things pop up. And I mean, there's more to it than just the divorce. I also lost my dad's entire family.
Aw.
I was disowned, and I'm out of the picture. I don't communicate with them, and it's very sad. And yes, I've shed a lot of tears over it. However, I've realized, I need to be true to myself, to who I am, And a lot of that has to do with my business, and I need to be there for my clients. So if it weren't for my team, my business would have gone out of business about 2.5 years ago. Because of my team and some hefty credit card debt to pay them, I was able to keep it open. And thankfully, my business is now debt free. It's been debt free for about a year. And it's been the most incredible year I've ever had. And in fact, the past few months have been the most incredible months. November and December are always slow for us because of the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
It's slow for everybody. And November and December last year were twice as big as any month we've ever had before. So it's when you're going through that rocky place, which might be, clients didn't pay you this month. It might be something happened in your family, a tragedy, somebody got sick, somebody died, and which is basically essentially what happened to me. I had to grieve a death. And it might be that, your whole world changes. And the fact is you need to know who you are, be true to who you are, and stay grounded in that, because that's what's going to get you through.
And I'm really glad you brought that up. And this hasn't been talked a lot in the series, but I think one of the things about optimizing your business is you also have to optimize your life, because we do have this intertwining of our personal and the business, and for most of us we can't keep it separate. And I think there's a couple different levels that are so critical, and one is, you can't always control your personal life, but you have to have the ability to deal with whatever comes up. You need to be able to walk away, take time, have a team, have systems, have support, have the flexibility, which I definitely have needed over the years, and have had my own rocky times where my team basically took over. But I think the other thing, and not that this fits exactly where you're at, but you've got to at some point learn how to manage what's going on inside your brain and stay present, especially when you're dealing with aftermath. And I think, and this is one of the reasons why we teach a program here called Inner Mastery for Peak Performance. If you don't know how to master your thoughts and what's going on inside and really take control and focus yourself, it's very easy to kind of get sway in the wind and have your tree blown over. And I've known people that basically lose their whole business because something happened in their personal life. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm really sorry you had to deal with that. I know that must have been extraordinarily painful. But what we always know is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So something tells me, something tells me you're stronger. Let's just go with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll flip that around.
I definitely feel stronger, and I feel like out of that, I was able to really see the weaknesses in my team as well, that I would never have been able to address before that. In fact, when my husband came on board full time, he actually was laid off from his full-time job. And I said, hey, come work for me. He's like, okay. So he's like, put me to work. And it hasn't stopped. He's actually also more than a designer. He's a children's book illustrator. And he illustrated 6 books last year.
Wow,
Which
how
is a
fun.
big deal. Every illustrator that I tell that he did that, they're like, we can't do more than 3. Most illustrators do maybe 3 books a year, maybe 4. And he was able to do 6. And a lot of that, he says, is because I was able to encourage him. And we're working together as a team now. And, if I have questions about something, or we have a big, huge whiteboard right here on this wall, which you can see a tiny part of it right there, the shiny white thing.
Yeah.
That this is filled with our goals for the year. And we have regular meetings, and so having that partnership with him is really essential too. If you have a partner in your life, you need to form a partnership, even if they don't work in your business. I have a friend who was going through something that I had gone through when he was working his full-time job, and that was, how do you make the husband understand?
Right.
How do you make the other person understand that you're spending so much time working? And now he joins me with his laptop in front of the Netflix. We're watching reruns of the Andy Griffith Show, and we're just working away. So it's nice to have him here as my support, and then also have found those holes that I was able to plug in my team.
So one of the things I always like to ask people is, was there a pivotal point on the positive side that really changed everything for you? Something that you learned, maybe a strategy that you put into place that helped you. So, we've heard you have a team. We've heard that, you now have the partnership with your husband, and usually those are things that people bring up. So I'm wondering, what is it for you that just made the biggest difference in being able to optimize your business for better results?
My most recent thing, which is probably the biggest thing I've ever done, was writing and publishing 18 Kindle books in 18 weeks.
So just like getting into action and getting it done, being able
Getting
to showcase that kind of result.
and doing something that hadn't been done before. So, like, I don't know
Ah,
if you can see these, but these are some of them on my Kindle.
nice.
Aren't they pretty? I just like to look at them, so I
I
can't.
just see shiny white boxes, but
Oh,
yeah, unfortunately we can't actually
yeah.
see it, but it looks cool. It's very impressive.
It would look really cool if you could see it. Anyhow, you can look up Author's Quick Guide at kristenonamazon.com and see them. And 16 of the books that I wrote are in that series. So what I did was I wanted to do something that had never been done before.
Okay.
And I got a new business coach that I've been wanting to work with, but she wouldn't let me until I was ready. So I worked my way through a few other coaches as I learned the things I needed to learn and built the foundation that I needed to build.
Hmm.
And as soon as I hired her, she said, "What do you want?" And I said, and she actually threw these words back in my face just last week. I said, "I want to play big or go home." And for me to acknowledge that was like, I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to find out what I'm made of. Am I up to this challenge? And by creating, doing something that had never been done before and publishing an entire series in 16 weeks, because 16 of them in 16 weeks and 18 overall,
Hmm.
um, and consistently doing that while keeping up with busy season in our business, which is October through November. Well, actually, it's August through November, but our busiest month of the year is October. And managing the team, I had to hire new people. I had to elevate the business to a higher level. I had to prioritize and say, okay, all these other ideas that I have are just going to have to be tabled for now.
Hmm.
I'm not going to be able to do them, and that's okay. I had to give myself permission that when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a great idea, I would implement it. And then I had to give myself permission later on that day to take a nap because that was essential. And if
Naps
I
are
hadn't,
good.
naps are awesome. If I hadn't have written and published those 18 books in 18 weeks, I wouldn't have had the foundation for my Kindle in 30 challenge that I ran in January, that I'm running again in June of this year, my Print in 30 challenge that I'm starting in April. All of these challenges, that's why you suddenly saw me popping up on the radar. I've been here for 10 years. I've been doing interviews. I've done like 3 interviews a month for the past couple of years. So it's not like I haven't been around. It's just finally I did that one extraordinary thing that fit my niche in my industry just perfect. And that is what pushed me up. And if I hadn't spent the past 5 years building that foundation, because I've actually been full-time for 6 years now, and if I hadn't spent the past 5 years building that foundation for my company, I wouldn't have been able to even even attempt it. It just wouldn't have happened.
You just said something really key, and I hope everybody got this, and that is that you have to build a foundation to take big leaps. A lot of people try to leap without the strength of a good foundation, and that's why you crumble or fall short or get totally stressed out and things fall apart and break down and you have meltdowns. Is you don't have a strong enough foundation to make the big leaps. And I think a lot of people in their impatience skip those steps because it's like people are pushing them, go do more, get faster results, and that's great. But I think there's something really powerful and magical that happens when you have a strong enough foundation that you can take an even bigger leap and make it all the way through. You don't
Yeah.
fall short or have things that come up that shouldn't. So that's fantastic. It sounds like such an extraordinary accomplishment. I'm envious, I gotta say. Like I'm so proud of you. I'm just like I know somebody who has published that many books in a really short period of time. That's it's
Yeah, and
quite
I
a
thought
feat.
they were all going to be really short, and they weren't. I mean, 2 of them were almost 20,000
Did you
words.
sleep at all during that period?
I averaged 4 hours a night.
Oh my God, I would die. I'm like an eight
I
hour girl.
survived off of green smoothies and raw chocolate pretty much the whole time.
No
I ate
coffee?
salads. No, I don't drink coffee.
Oh God.
But raw chocolate has plenty of caffeine in it.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome stuff. And I also experienced major burnout
Hmm.
in January
I
while I
bet.
was running my challenge. So I actually have been sort of sick for the past. I was sick this weekend with some sort of head cold that my husband keeps giving me, and then he takes it back. And we don't get sick. Like
Hmm.
we haven't been sick in over a year. So this virus that's going around, ugh,
Pushed
I
your
just
edge a
got
little
over it.
too far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I finally was feeling better this morning. And then last weekend I had food poisoning, and then a few weekends before that I had another chest head cold thing, and that lasted about a week. And it's just because I'm burned out and I
Hmm.
didn't take that time to rest. So now with this Print in 30 challenge that I'm running in April, I'm planning the following week to pretty much take off.
Good for
I'll do the
you.
bare minimum and rest. Oh, I learned. I also learned that, we needed to have a support desk in place, which we did not have. We ran the first challenge. And there's nasty people in the world that I didn't know existed. I tell
Yeah.
people it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. And that's what that whole foundation was 9 years of building, building, building to the point that I could just catapult. And when you catapult, everyone can see you. And you become a really nice, pretty target that
Yep.
people can shoot at. And it's tempting. Think about going clay shooting. And it's like, oh, look, boom. And that's what happened to me. And I was the clay, and I've spent many nights crying myself to sleep because people emailed me and said how much they hated me and what a horrible person I was and how unprofessional I am. And I just nitpicking at stuff when the fact of the matter was they didn't like that I had an upsell. They want everything for free. And you know what? They're not my target audience anyway. So I've been trying to learn how to let that stuff roll off my back, which is a whole nother mindset thing to deal with. When as my life coach calls it, every time I level up, I fall back into my old patterns of how I deal with stuff. And those patterns worked 3 levels ago. They don't work anymore. So I have to find new ways to handle the new stuff, because every time you level up in your business, you're going to encounter another level of people that just are envious or jealous or don't like you. And it's scary. And I really had to I spent 3 days totally unplugged from technology, which is hard for me to do with my Facebook addiction.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Those 3 days I spent soul searching, and I've never done that before. I've never taken a soul searching vacation, and my hubby and I went to the mountains and just relaxed and had fun and drove around, and that's where I got food poisoning. But it was a really incredible experience, full of a lot of tears. And when I got home, I felt much more much more like my old self, and able to take on things, and realized a lot of things that need to happen, before I make the next level in my jump in my business. And honestly, I hope to be at this level for a little bit before I make another jump, because it's nice to have a little bit of a break and beyond the runner's high for just a little before you tackle that longer
Absolutely.
challenge.
Well, I'm sure with the life coach and business coach and doing the work and having to find that strength inside of you to raise your vibration to match the game you're playing on the outside and doing that, you must have run across some kind of a mantra or quote that inspires you to keep going when things feel challenging. Is it posted on your wall?
Yes, that's where I'm looking. I think it's actually okay. There's one by Zig Ziglar that I loved so much, somebody posted on Facebook, so I cut it out and I stuck it on my wall. And it says, "Don't be distracted by criticism. Remember, the only taste of success some people have is when they take a bite out of you."
Ooh, I
And I was
like that.
"Oh, that's good." And my other one, which actually I think is still stuck to my husband's computer because I don't see it in here, is and I'm not sure who said it, but it's, "A turtle only makes progress when he sticks his neck out."
Good one.
If you've ever watched a turtle walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I love those. So, Kristen, what's next for you? Maybe not big leaps, but just what are you excited about next?
Well, I just wrote another book.
I think you have an addiction.
I got this idea not this past weekend, but the weekend before when I was sick. And I keep getting these. This weekend, actually, I wrote 80-some pages for my next book. But last weekend, I came up with an idea for a journal for writers. I've always been fascinated with right brain and getting the left brain to cooperate and the hemispheres to talk to each other. And I've done workshops on it, and I sat down and I got this huge brainstorm, of course, while I was sick. And my food coach, yes, I even have a food coach, she told me it's because my body's so worn down, my left brain can't process anymore. It needed a break, which allowed my right brain to just go crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, great. Yesterday morning, I woke up with 3 new Kindle series ideas, a brand new book idea, which I started to implement yesterday. And at like 5:30 at night last night, I started doing it, and I created 80 pages for it before the next thing. So I think my next step is just product creation. In general, I have 5 books that I'll have out by the end of this year, I hope, fingers crossed. One of them is the one that I'm writing, because I'm actually writing my own print book for the print challenge. I've written other ones, little ones. But this will be my first big showcase print book, and it's part of a trilogy, and it's called How to How to Write Nonfiction Like a Ninja. And
I
then
like the title.
I'll have it's a trilogy, so I'll be writing, publishing, and marketing. And I'm taking most of the content I've already done for the Kindle books that I wrote and putting them into this trilogy, as well as new content.
Love it.
So my whole premise behind Print in 30 is in 30 days, you can take stuff you've already done, add to it, organize it, and create a showcase print book out of it. So I'm doing that challenge with them. But anyway, back to this book that I just sent to the printer literally like 3 days ago. It's called Write Your Left Brain Journal. And it's WRITE with RIGHT and a reflection underneath it. So it's all about connecting your right brain to the left brain, but it's strictly for writers. So it's got writing prompts in it, it's got exercises, and I hand drew every single page. And I spent 2 days doing that, and then I spent a couple more days scanning them all in, and another day and a half designing the book and the cover, which I actually did myself because I haven't been creative in a while. So that was really fun to get to do some design again. And I actually have an art degree, so I got to play with some of that. And the next book that I'm coming out with is actually part of that series, which is the Write Your Left Brain 365 Days to creatively something, motivation, inspiration. I got to find it. It's downstairs.
Okay.
But it's basically a daily activity or prompt to do to play and to bring play into your environment. So like one of the things is play with the ball today. And there's little soft exercises in there. There's things, journaling prompts, and there's a list of things that you need to have to make these things happen, like sidewalk chalk and fun stuff.
Cool. I love it. Well, you definitely win the award for hyper creativity. It's been so much fun having you on today. Kristen, remind everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at thebookninja.com.
Great. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today. And, as you're listening in, I'd love to know from you, what is an idea, something that popped for you, something that you related to, or something you just enjoyed learning from Kristen today? Be sure to, if you're on the blog here, you can pop it down in the blog comments, or if you're listening on iTunes, you can join us over at melaniebensonstrick.com and just look for the blog and come share your thoughts with us. So, Kristen, thanks so much again. Fantastic ideas. Love sharing your journey and hearing, what's been up for you. So goodbye, everyone. See you next week.